Good evening, Lake Travis ISD families. My name is Curtis Null. I'm proud to be your superintendent of schools. I'd like to welcome you to our August 26, 2026 YouTube Live update. For those of you that are returning from watching these videos last year, welcome back. And for those of you that maybe you're new to the district or it's just your first time being able to tune in with us, we're glad you're here. These are opportunities for us to have kind of what I view as family conversations. We come on and we do this live so that we can ask questions in the end, but these are unscripted conversations. So I have some notes to just help me guide topics, but you don't write a script when you talk to family, and that's kind of how I view this. So with that, I ask that you give me grace. There are times that I may make mistakes along the way, but I think it's important that we talk from the heart and just have real conversation. And we've spoken in the past about the benefit of these, that we can talk about the good things, and sometimes we have challenging things that we need to talk about. And tonight we're going to start with a challenging conversation. And so I know many of you, maybe you turn this on and you're listening to it in the car, whether it's live or you're catching up with it later on a stream. I want to give kind of a warning here that we're going to start with a heavy conversation, and maybe this is not a conversation for little ears. So if that's the situation you're in now, maybe you want to pause it or go to AirPods or whatever it may be, so that we can have a bit of an adult conversation here for a little while before we get back into what I would consider our normal conversation. So just want to give that warning before we get started today. These opportunities to talk sometimes come with a lot of difficulty. And this school year certainly started with a lot of pain. You will recall in a letter that we sent on the morning of the second day of school that we lost a Lake Travis High School student athlete right at the beginning of the school year. And we're going to talk about that situation tonight and in a little more detail and share a bit more information that we can. But I just wanted to reiterate, just for us as educators, and I know for all of us as parents, losing a child at any time is a very difficult thing, especially when you're in a situation where it all kind of manifested at school and there were so many other students involved and impacted and around. It's really difficult. And it is a reminder for all of us of just how precious each and every one of these children are that we have the honor to work with. But it's a reminder for all of us, I think, as people, to cherish every moment, to cherish every day, because nothing is promised. And I think that's a real thing that we can all kind of work on. And before we talk about the situation and get into details, I want to make sure that we start by honoring the young man, because Odin Hensley was a young man that deserves to be honored and remembered. Now, I think I'd interacted with Odin maybe once or twice last year on a football sideline, but I didn't know him well. But over these last few weeks, I really feel like I've had an opportunity to get to know him through hearing the comments of friends and coaches and everyone that he impacted. On the surface, and as you can see in the picture, he was somewhat of a man-child in a body, right? From the outside, you could see that he was a big guy, big and strong and powerful, a returning offensive lineman on the football team, an accomplished and state-level wrestler. Just in every way that you would look at him, you would see power and strength. But then to hear the people talk about him, to sit at the service and hear the people that loved him so dearly talk about him, from friends and coaches, and to be in the cafeteria at the high school and have kids come up and talk about him as they were working through their own grief. You come to know very quickly that this was a very, very special young man. Because in spite of this big large, almost larger than life exterior that could be intimidating, perhaps to a younger person or a younger person, or smaller person. He was described as a big teddy bear. He had joy in his heart. You know, he would be just as likely to sit down and play Fortnite with a younger brother or sister as he would to do anything else. Some of the attributes that I heard that really stood out to me were when people would just talk about his kindness, just the way that he would go out of his way to be kind to other people. And that's an attribute that even us as adults could probably learn a lot from him, because it's one thing to be kind, it's one thing to be proud of people and to want people to do great, but it's another thing to make that special effort to verbalize that. And Odin is a young man that did that. Coach Carter shares a story that on that first day of football practice, we moved up a younger kicker onto the varsity, and Odin went out of his way in the locker room as a senior offensive lineman to go find that young man and congratulate him and tell him that he was going to do a great job. And I heard the same thing from wrestling families about how he would go out of his way to cheer for the other wrestlers and to go talk to them and lift them up. Smaller guys, younger guys, whoever it may be, he would do all those things. And that is something that's really admirable. Additionally, I think we can all remember being in high school and we see a young man that's a varsity football athlete and a varsity wrestling athlete, and we think like, oh, his friend group is probably just all the athletes. And for Odin, that was just not true. He had friends throughout the school, and that was really rooted in his kindness, because when he was in class, he was kind to everyone. He went out of his way to get to know people, and that made a difference in the lives of so many. And you saw that, and you see it in the reaction of the kids in our school, the reaction of our teachers and coaches, that they could see that. And so what I never want to be lost in any of these conversations or as we move forward is who Odin was as a young man, because his parents raised an absolute gem of a young man, and we should honor that. We should remember that. And I would say that it should be our task to try to emulate some of the great things that he taught us as we move forward. So let us make sure that we remember Odin for the young man that he was, and there'll be opportunities to do that throughout this year and then moving forward. But let us remember the word that will stick to me the most, that I just heard over and over, and I think the world just needs more of, is kindness. And I think that really reflects who he was. A fierce competitor. I don't think it's a young man that you would want to line up against on a football field or in a wrestling ring, but outside of that environment, just a young man that was just a beautiful person. And so we remember him tonight, and I hope that for those of you that are raising younger children, you would look at an example of Odin and see that we can raise strong, tough, competitive young men, and at the same time, we can teach them to be empathetic and caring and loving for everyone that they meet. And so Odin Hensley, just a fine young man. And I want to speak a little bit here, just kind of on behalf of the family. I know that this was expressed at the service, but the outpouring of love that has come from our community here in Lake Travis, but also just across, not just Central Texas and not even just across the state, but really nationwide, the amount of love that has come in for them as a family. They are touched. They feel that love. They feel your prayers, and I know that they appreciate them immensely. And I would just remind us that this journey is not over for them. It is but just beginning. And so as we move forward, continue to lift them up, continue to do all that we can to support them as a family. And then on behalf of this LT family, of our Lake Travis High School, Lake Travis football, wrestling, just as a school community, we say thank you. It has been an amazing outpouring of love. And once again, from all across the state and nation, neighboring school districts, reaching out, trying to find ways to support our boys and our coaches and our high school in every way. It's really been a beautiful thing to see. It's a tragedy to be in this situation. And I think anytime we deal with this heartache and this pain, we would like to think, like, where can we find signs of good, right? Like this, how do we explain this? How do we put into words, and how do we teach our young ones to look forward? And I'm reminded of a quote of an interview that I saw one time with Fred Rogers. For those of you that are in my generation, that's Mr. Rogers. And he did an interview one time, and he talked about words that his mother shared with him. And when he was a young boy, and she told him that when there are these tragedies in the world and awful events happen and you're looking for hope, you're watching the news or you're seeing a situation, the one thing you should always look for are the helpers. Because in any tragic situation, just off to the side, there are these helpers that are there to do everything they can to love on everyone involved. And it is through those helpers that we get hope in these difficult moments. And I can tell you the helpers in this community are amazing. This is a really special place. And once again, we can talk about all these other programs, but I have just seen moms in the football program that showed up the night that we needed them to have, when we had to have a conversation with the boys, and these moms show up and do really hard work with us. Amazing helpers that give us hope. Our coaches, our athletic staff, just outstanding people. And I think that's what gives me comfort in these situations. I can't explain what happened or why it's happened, but I can become hopeful about who we are as a community, about our future as a community when I see these helpers. And I can also become hopeful when I think that, perhaps a situation like this, we would look at Odin and those beautiful qualities that made him who he was, and maybe we would emulate him just a bit more in our lives. And that gives me hope as well. So let us remember Odin as a young man. Let's remember his family and all of those that loved him as we continue to move forward through this situation. Now, anytime we have hard things happen, we want to communicate with you. And I know that sometimes we send letters and we can't tell you everything that happened, and that in and of itself sometimes can be scary, and you can be frustrated with us at times and think like, I wish you would tell us more. And my promise to you is we will always tell you what we can, but my secondary promise to you is we will never ever cross a line of what we have permission to say, and we'll never ever cross a line of being respectful to a family that's hurting. And I know sometimes that may cause frustration on the other side, but heaven forbid you are ever the one in that situation. You can absolutely know that we will always have your back as well. Now, in this situation, we've gotten some permission from Odin's family to talk a little bit about what happened, because they want to share that information, and they hope that we can do some education based on his situation. And so we're going to do that tonight. And I think part of this process has been respect for them and their mourning process, to not come forward sooner into this conversation. But we will talk about a little bit more of the details. I know that some of you may want to know, because it is scary. Now, my children are out of college now, and I'm now a grandparent, and I look at my new grandchild and think about the future that he may have as a student athlete, and it is scary when we put our kids into situations. At the same time, we want our kids to be able to do what they love and to live life, right? But we also sometimes need answers and comfort. And so hopefully tonight we're going to give you a few of those answers and maybe provide some comfort into the situation as well, because I think knowledge does help us with that. Now, as we enter this conversation, I want to share with you just a little bit about my background. And the reason that I'm going to share that is because I think it is relevant to this next part of the conversation. Before I became a school administrator, an assistant principal, moved on, I started my career as an athletic trainer. So I worked, with student athletes to make sure that they were healthy on the football field and in any other arena in which they compete. I went to the University of Houston and worked with the athletic program at the University of Houston. I did a one-year internship in the NFL. And then I went to graduate school at the University of Florida and spent 2 years working with the football team there at the University of Florida before moving back to Texas, which is home for me, and beginning my teaching career as an athletic trainer at the Woodlands High School. So I tell you that so you know that I have spent thousands upon thousands of hours on a football field dealing with very difficult injury and illness situations. And so there are some times that I don't feel like I can speak from knowledge. This is an area that I do feel a little more connected to and able to speak directly from knowledge. The situation that happened with Odin happened on the very first day of football practice. It was the first practice. Students were out there. They were in helmets only, not in full pads. It was a cool morning. Heat was not an issue at all. We were only about 20 minutes into football practice. It was still basically the warm-up section. So overexertion, working too hard, not factors at all in this situation. Odin began to have some struggles on the football field, and the response of our coaches, and then to immediately seek our athletic trainers to come on site was perfect. As soon as he exhibited signs of struggle, the team was notified and in action. Within seconds, and I mean as in 15 seconds of the need for CPR, it was being administered. I know there's been questions about, was there an AED on site? Yes, absolutely. There was an AED on site. It was utilized as well. But our athletic trainers were immediately in motion. As soon as that process started, they immediately called 911 to have the ambulance en route. Ambulance arrived on the field very quickly. We're very thankful for our first responders. We handed over that medical care to the first responders, who then engaged Starflight from Travis County to land a helicopter on our field to try to get Odin to the hospital as quickly as possible so that he could get the very best care that was available to him. Although the final outcome is certainly not what any of those that responded wanted, their response in working through the emergency protocols was done exquisitely. I also responded to the field that morning, not in a medical capacity, but just as an administrator there, but witnessed the operation. And once again, knowing how those operations should function, I can tell you that they were flawless in what they did. That afternoon, our first responders, or that morning, the first responders shared with me just what a great job our on-the-field staff did. And actually, the next day, had an opportunity to in the community to see one of the fire chiefs that went out of his way to come back and tell me again what an amazing job our coaches and our athletic trainers did. Now, we've talked about the fact that it wasn't heat and it wasn't, an overexertion issue. And a lot of people have asked the question about, a heart condition and, hey, do we do echocardiograms? Is that something that you can have done during a physical? Yes, you can have those done. And I think they're very useful to have done. It's good to know if you have a heart defect that maybe can be corrected. That was not the case in this situation. And once again, I share this publicly only because I have permission to do so, but the preliminary diagnosis, and I think we'll learn more as the days go on, but the preliminary diagnosis for Odin, he was afflicted with what's known as a pulmonary embolism. I'm not a physician, and I don't want to try to be a physician tonight, but I would just give you the basics of that. And what that means is there's a blood clot that forms, and it usually forms somewhere in your lower extremities, and it can move throughout your body. And if that blood clot moves and reaches a point where it blocks the arteries to your lungs, then you can no longer get blood flow and oxygenated blood through your body. That can cause cardiac arrest. It's an absolute medical emergency. And that was the situation that Odin experienced on the field. Unfortunately, a pulmonary embolism is not something that an AED can fix. It's not something that CPR can fix. CPR can help sustain life until you can get to a hospital to have it fixed, but it cannot be fixed on a football field. So it's important to Odin's family that we all learn more about blood clotting and ultimately what became a pulmonary embolism. They want us to talk about this tonight so that we all learn maybe the signs and symptoms of blood clots. And perhaps we continue to try to learn more about why would we be forming blood clots. It's not normal for a 17-year-old to have that situation. So I know they're going to work more on their family side to understand, but they want to make sure that all of us think about that, talk about it, and try to learn more. And so I encourage you to have conversations about that, and perhaps talk to your physician. Are there tests out there that can check for blood clotting, tendencies, or someone that may have be more predisposed to that. I think that's a conversation that you should have with your doctor. I think that's an important conversation to have if it's something that you're worried about. But it's like we said, it was a very tragic situation, and unfortunately, despite the greatest efforts of amazing first responders, it was just not something that could be overcome. Now, I can't explain why things like this happen. I think there's a level of this conversation that is to be had with physicians. I think there's a whole nother level of this conversations that are to be had with your faith leaders. But I can't explain it. But the one thing that I do know is all we can do moving forward is to try to heal, and you heal through love. That's the way that we get better, is we just love each other more, and we love each other harder. And we find ways to take care of those that are hurting. And we've seen the examples of that in this community, and I encourage us to continue to do that moving forward. Odin's family is going to need us to continue to love on them, not just for these last 2 weeks, but for days and months and years moving forward. His classmates, his teammates are going to need us. His coaches, who loved him dearly and were present and did all that they could do in the situation, are going to need our love moving forward. And two folks that I want to specifically call out, because what I witnessed was not short of heroism on the field. I watched two professional licensed athletic trainers that are well trained and knew exactly what to do and did it beautifully and professionally. And then when the moment was over and they were able to handle his care, I could feel the pain, and I still feel that for them. That's Cameron Flanders and Amy Zapata. They're two of our athletic trainers at the high school, and they were both on the field that day, and both did amazing. And I've expressed to them that appreciation, but I think as a community, we know that we have these ladies, in addition to a third athletic trainer, that work for, with us every day to take care of our kids, and we need to love on them. And so I just encourage you to do that as well, because I'm really proud of the work they did. I'm really proud of the people that they are, and they still come to work every day to take care of our kids, and they're going to be out there at football practice and at football games, and they're going to be doing the work, and they need us as well. So, this is going to be a long process of healing, right? And I would just hope that in time, as we're going through this healing process, that we would continue to remember Odin, remember the young man that he was, as we look to move forward, and we try to find our way in this world under this new situation that we're in, and we have a football team that is going to move forward with the football season, and kids that are going to move forward with their senior year without a classmate, all the things. I just hope that we would remember Odin, and that we would create a world that has just a bit more kindness in it, a world that has more words of encouragement for each other, more positive words for each other, and more grace and more joy in this world, because I think he was a young man that was fun-loving and found joy in this world, and I hope that we could all do that moving forward. So I appreciate the opportunity to share this information with you tonight, and I know in some ways maybe there are those of you out there that still have more questions, and I would also just say, like, let us respect Odin's family, let us respect this situation, and at the same time know that everyone is doing the absolute best that they can to take care of our kids and move forward. So as if you're watching this live, we are going to take a short break. Maybe just a couple of minutes here, as we have a chance not only to remember Odin, but also just for us to transition and collect our thoughts as we want to transition this conversation to the start of school. If you're watching this on the stream later, we'll try to clip part of this delay out. But if you are watching us live, I would ask that you just stay with us, and we will return here in just a few minutes. Perhaps some of you are just joining us now for the beginning of this conversation now moving forward. Once again, my name is Curtis Null, Superintendent here at Lake Travis ISD. Thank you for joining this conversation tonight as we remember Odin Hensley, and we also begin this conversation about the school year and about the great things that are happening in Lake Travis ISD. And part of doing this live is it gives an opportunity for questions to roll in, and then we can cover those. And I'm going to just actually start with a couple of questions, because if I'm just being really honest with you, like I need to flow back into this conversation a little bit, and I kind of need to do that. And so we had a few questions come in about construction, and so Let me just address those right off the bat. So construction is ongoing. If you drive around Lake Travis High School, boy, you see it, and you live it every day. The new science wing that's on the Spillman Loop side of the school is open for the first day of school. Those rooms are beautiful. If you happen to have a high school student that is has a class in any of those classrooms, I'm sure you've already heard about them. Just a beautiful addition to the school. Really happy to have that open and thankful that they were able to get it done for the start of this school year. And the next big construction project is happening on the other side of the school, on the Cavalier Drive side, and that is the work on Leif Johnson Ford Field at Cavalier Stadium. So the stadium construction continues, and one of the questions that came in was, hey, are we on schedule at the stadium? And we are. The schedule is tight, to be honest with you. If you remember back, I know it seems weird to even have a conversation today about rain because it hasn't rained in a month and a half. But if you go back 6 weeks ago, we did have some rain, and we had multiple days of rain that really squeezed the calendar a bit on us, but they've been working really hard. We still expect to play the game as scheduled in there in October, our first game, and then the second game will be against Westlake, as we expect, probably a bigger crowd in that second game. So we're on track with the stadium. We're excited about that as well. And then additionally on that Cavalier Drive side, you see the gym and Fine Arts Edition under construction, and that is a massive, massive project. It is scheduled to open for the beginning of school next year. So we're going to continue to see that kind of grow and morph throughout this school year, and hopefully it will open to start the year next year. We'll have a big brand new gym that can hold all the kids, and we're really excited about that. Along the lines of the gym and construction, I want to tell you that today was a really special day at Lake Travis High School. The high school has not had a pep rally, and those of us that, if you grew up at least in Texas, I'm not sure how it is in the rest of the world, but at least in Texas, we're used to high school pep rallies. It's kind of the fabric of life. Well, Lake Travis High School has not been able to achieve a pep rally for many years, I think since 2019. There are a variety of challenges that have to be overcome, but you have to really want to overcome them to make it happen. And Mr. Bush cares enough and wanted to overcome that, and he did today. So the high school had their very first pep rally today in the gym. They could only seat 800 kids, and so it was limited seating, but what a great time. I had an opportunity to be there. It was wonderful. Can't wait till next year when we have the bigger gym and we can get more kids to have that experience on campus. But thank you, Mr. Bush. Thank you to all of the high school staff. A lot of people had to work hard to make that experience possible for our kids, but we're thankful that they did. I'm sure it's out there on social media. I could imagine that we had tons of students there taking pictures and videos, and so I'm sure they're going to be circulating on the social media channels. But congratulations, Lake Travis High School. The Cavaliers did great today. For a group of kids that haven't had a pep rally, they really got into it, and I know we're looking forward to having a few more throughout the year. And that's just an example of the excitement of the start of a school year. Like, there are so many wonderful things going on, and I encourage you, if you're not, follow us on social media. When I talk about us, it's the district, but also your campus, the programs on your campus. Our folks are a pretty good follow. Like, we are putting out some amazing content, but what makes the content amazing? It's not that we're coming up with these crazy ideas to create viral videos. What we're doing is we're just giving you a lens into the school day. You can see the amazing things that happen in our schools each and every day via social media. So if you're like my kids might have been, a middle schooler or maybe even younger or older, when you ask your kid, like, what'd you do today? Nothing. Well, what's happening at school? Nothing. And you can begin to think like, well, I don't know if anything happens at that school. Well, lock into our social media. You're going to see a lot of things going on. It's not only going to impress you, but it's also going to give you an opportunity to drive conversation with your child to say, hey, I saw this happen on social media today. Were you a part of that? Is that something that you got to do in your classroom? And maybe it'll drive more conversation. But follow us on social media. Share it with your friends. Maybe you have friends out there that have kids that live in our school district but aren't attending our schools to say, hey, look at what's going on at these schools. Like this is an opportunity for your kids. We'd love to have them. You know, if we have resident students, we'd love to have them come join us in our schools. And so share that out if you would. Share it with grandma and grandpa. You know, they'd love to see the cool things that are happening in their kids' schools as well. So the start of the new school year brings so many exciting things. We have all the great programs we've had historically, but we also have new programs. And if you watched these presentations last year, you might remember that I brought up one of those last year. And I said, Destination Imagination is a wonderful program. We had one team last year in Lake Travis ISD, and they advanced the state competition. And we featured them here in one of our conversations. We had a wonderful picture of those kids. But I told you, I said, hey, we have to advance this because we are the type of community that would be great at Destination Imagination. It needs super creative, very bright children. And that team of children is coached by a super creative, very, very bright parent. Well, that's a great example of who we are. We have wonderful parents that want to be a part of what's going on in their kids' lives. So Destination Imagination is perfect for us. So we are expanding. So I'm going to share with you the flyer. I think Meg can pull it up for us here. Yeah, you can see that we had a virtual meeting that has already come and gone, but we have an in-person meeting Thursday, September 10th at 6:30. It's over at our Education Development Center, Office 620. If you are interested, or even if you don't even know exactly what Destination Imagination is, please look it up on social media, learn more about it. If you're still not sure if it's something that you want to do, come to the meeting. You know, let's get there and check it out, because I think we have the type of kids here, once again, that we want to make sure that our kids are getting opportunities to just find something that they're passionate about, find something they love. This is something they can start in elementary school, and they can do this through their senior year of high school. So this runs the entire gamut of their educational career, but it's also something that they can learn teamwork, and they can learn critical thinking, and they can learn how to communicate. There's so many wonderful things about this. I hope that if perhaps you would consider coaching, get your kids involved, please attend that meeting if you would, and I think you'll find that it'll be worthwhile. Other new things throughout this school year that we're really happy about. One is our curriculum. I want to tell you that I'm so thankful for our teachers. We had, I believe, 80 plus teachers that gave up days during their summer to come in and work on curriculum writing to make sure that it doesn't matter which classroom you're in Lake Travis, you are going to get access to wonderful curriculum across our entire school district. In addition to what we provide for teachers as far as the curriculum to help them do their jobs, we also have a great opportunity for you as parents to understand exactly what is happening in our classroom. So Meg, is it possible to pull up my laptop here? Okay, so I'm going to show you exactly where you can go to see our curriculum. So parents, you can see here, we're on the Lake Travis ISD homepage. We can go, let's see, we can go under families. I'm going to try not to go super fast and give us all a headache, okay? You go right here, you see Curriculum and Instruction Hub Family Edition. All right, so if we click on that, takes us to this page, and then we have this big red button here in the middle, Curriculum Instruction Hub Family Edition. We click on that, and you can see it takes us directly to that page. Once you're on this page, you can roll down and see all of our instructional plans. So let's just say I am curious about middle school, and I would like to learn more and understand my 7th grade student in language arts. I'd like to understand maybe a little bit more about what are they going to learn in 7th grade language arts this year. So I can go right here, I can see grade 7 language arts. I can move over here and I can click that. In theory, here we go. And you can pull up the year at a glance and the syllabus, and then you can scroll through. Once again, I'm going to try not to go too fast and look at things, but you can see you have plenty of buttons here at the bottom. 7th grade math, you can move to that. There is so much here for you to see and you to be able to go in and understand exactly what is happening for your students and in your students' classroom. So we're thankful that we have great opportunities on the teacher side with our new curriculum, but also on the parent side. And I'm not sure if everybody knew that this existed. So I wanted to share that with you. Let's go back to the homepage. I want to show one other thing. This is not new, but it's a reminder. CAV Kudos. CAV Kudos are the opportunity that we have for you to go in and leave a positive note. And we talked earlier about kindness and words of affirmation and being intentional about saying positive things to people and having positive conversations about people. CAV Kudos are the way that we can do that. You can go in by the school. You can go down here for the district CAV Kudos as well. But you can click and you'll see a drop-down menu of all the staff on that campus, and you can go in and tell your school nurse what a great job she does or he does. You can go in and go down to the district level and talk about a bus driver or whatever it may be. There's an opportunity for you to tell the folks that you appreciate them and that they're doing a wonderful job. And then finally, while we're on the laptop here, I want to share one more bit of good news and also just a piece of appreciation. In this picture here on our homepage, you can see representatives from the Lake Travis Education Foundation who attended our board meeting last month, and they donated, you can see what I lovingly refer to as the Happy Gilmore check, right? The giant check for $500,000, $500,000 into our Lake Travis ISD budget from the Lake Travis Education Foundation. That money goes to pay for staff members. We would not have been able to give a raise this year if not for that contribution. They are really difference makers, and you, because you all help support them and make donations, are difference makers through LTEF to all of our campuses. It impacts every child. And so we're very thankful. And as we've talked about in the past, perhaps you, your family, perhaps you own a company, you're looking for ways to make a charitable donation. And where can you do that? You can make that charitable donation to Lake Travis Education Foundation. It's, you can take it off on your taxes. It's a wonderful way to help your money work to help every student. So very thankful for LTEF that they were able to bring us the big check, and it's making a huge difference in the school district. All right, now moving ahead, want to mention one thing that was also shared and has been shared recently is a great man, a pillar of our community, has stepped away from our school board because he had a professional opportunity to move on to a new job in Georgia. Dr. Phil Davis served just over 5 years on the Lake Travis ISD school board and did so very honorably. The thing that stood out to me about Dr. Davis is he was super thoughtful. His comments were from the heart. He was well read and always prepared and super supportive, but had really high standards. And I appreciated that as a new superintendent coming in. I knew that he had high expectations, and he would hold us to that, but he would also do it with kindness. And I really appreciated that. So we're going to miss Dr. Davis and being on our board. I'm really confident in the 6 members that remain on our board. They're wonderful as well, but we all want to wish Dr. Davis and his family the very best. They're a great Lake Travis family that has now moved on to Georgia, and we wish them the very best. So Dr. Davis's seat on our school board will remain vacant. It will be up for election in May, so we will have an open seat, and we're looking for a great person that would maybe want to fill that seat moving forward. I believe the filing process for that will begin in January. So now may be that time that you begin to think about, hey, might I want to serve on a school board? And I would tell you that I think serving on a school board is the best volunteer opportunity in the community. It's not easy. It's very difficult. The pay is not great. In fact, it's $0. It's a volunteer job, but it does pay back in so many ways when you can see the joy and the impact that you can make as a school board member. So That may be something that you want to think about moving forward, but we want to wish Dr. Davis all the very best moving forward. Hey, we had big news come out just a few weeks ago. School ratings became public. We shared out via email, I believe, with you as well. We are very proud in Lake Travis ISD to once again be honored to be an A-rated school district. So that is something that we should all be extremely proud of. That is not an easy task to accomplish. It takes the work of everybody. It's amazing teachers, it's amazing kids, it's amazing parents, administrators, bus drivers, cafeteria, you name it. It takes all of us to make something like that happen, and we're really proud, and we should be proud because it's hard work and it's not guaranteed. We had a really strong accountability year. When you look at our campuses across the school district, of our 11 campuses, 9 of them were A-rated. We had 2 Bs. West Cypress 1 point away from being an A. And Lake Travis Elementary, what an amazing year they had. Huge gains at Lake Travis Elementary. And I know talking to Principal Prain at Lake Travis Elementary, she says, that's all right, just watch out. Like next year, we'll be there. It's coming. And I believe her. You talk to her for about 20 seconds and you'll be a believer too. Amazing work happening there. But to be at a place where every campus is an A or a B-rated campus, there are not a lot of school districts in Texas that are in this situation, and we have so much to be proud of, and we are super thankful for all the work that's happened. Now, in addition to just the ratings, there's a secondary piece that comes. It's called distinctions. So these are kind of what I call next level, right? You can get your A, but a distinction means that you have really stood out when you start to compare yourself to schools that look like you. And we had a banner year for distinctions. So last year, as a district, we had 4 total distinctions. This year, we had 12 distinctions as a school district. So that's an amazing jump. To triple our performance is off the charts amazing. Kathy Burbank is a name maybe you've heard here in Lake Travis, maybe not. She's been around for many years. Actually told us that this is going to be her last year, but she is our director of accountability and data. So she's the person that kind of handles all these testing materials, and she made the presentation to the board last week about our accountability, and I think her presentation really summed up why this place is great, because she was so excited to stand up there and share this good news with our school board and our community, because our schools did such a wonderful job and our kids are performing at such a high level. And as mentioned, she's been here many, many years, and to hear her stand up there and tell the board that this is the best presentation she's ever had the opportunity to share is amazing. And I hear that, and it fires me up, and I'm super excited about it. And we had a leadership meeting today with all of our principals and all of our directors, and we talked about this, and we said, hey, like that makes me excited and it makes me proud, and you could feel it in the room. And at the exact same time, it's like, but I'm so far away from being satiated or satisfied. Like this just tells me, man, we're capable of so much more. And so we're not going to fail to celebrate the greatness that was last year. We're going to celebrate that, and we should. And at the same time, we're going to stay really hungry, and we're going to keep getting better every day, because if we can triple our distinctions from last year, what can we do next year? How far can we push these numbers next year? How far can we push our kids? How can we, take a student that is performing really well, but put them at the very peak of their performance and give them every opportunity that this world has to offer them, because we have poured into them. That's what we want to do every day. And I'm really, really proud of our folks, and we should all be. And those are community awards. When you start seeing an A for a district, that's not just representative of who we are in buildings. It's representative of all of us in the community. And so congratulations to Lake Travis ISD for being an A. We are really, really proud of that. Now, one of the things we talked about last year, we had a lot of conversations last year about attendance. So you remember like early on, maybe the very first time that we had an opportunity to get together and have these conversations, we talked about attendance. And we said, hey, like this is an area that when we compare ourselves to our peers, like we don't look very good. And I think we all came to an agreement in our conversation, because after I did that conversation in video and went out and started talking to PTAs and PTOs and seeing people in the community, everybody was like, yeah, you're right. Like it's never acceptable for Lake Travis to be in the fourth quartile in anything. And across the board, we were in the fourth quartile in attendance. And so we really leaned in last year to say, hey, let's make attendance better. Part of it was we all just needed to understand the system, right? We needed to understand that, first and foremost, if a kid's not in school, they're missing an opportunity to learn that day. And every school day is precious. And we don't want to give those up. We think about, if a student just missed one day a month, well, if they did that for 11 years, that's 99 days throughout their educational career that they've missed. That's over half a year of school. So by the time they're taking the SATs and ACTs as a junior, if they were to come up 10 or 20 points short of that number they needed to get into the dream school, or that number they needed to get to, the scholarship that they were really hoping, I don't know that we can exactly correlate the missing of a half a year of school to those 20 points, but I don't want anybody to be in a position where they look back and go, man, like I wish we'd have been more locked in early and throughout the process. So that's a real conversation that we want to have. At the same time, none of us want sick kids in school. So when we're sick, we stay home, and we're going to get sick. That's going to happen. And so when kids are sick, they should stay home. But when we can avoid missing school for vacations or any of those things, we should try to avoid it. And having those conversations last year, we saw a change happen. So I think, Meg, we have a graph that we can share. Guys, this is the graph of, you can see last year in purple as compared to the previous 2 years. And as soon as we started having the conversation, we got better. There in the second 6-week period, you could see us improve. But what I was so impressed about was when you looked at the second semester. Because what that told me was we started talking about this in the fall, and you all made adjustments to your spring plans. We all learned that, hey, if we have to go out of town for the cheer competition or the baseball tournament, that, we can adjust our travel plans a little bit to make sure that we're present at school on Friday before we leave, so that, we get some learning done, but also that the school district, receives funding for that day of instruction for your child, to make sure that we can meet our budget and we can reinvest in our staff, which I think, once again, that's a universal thing that we agree upon. We want to invest as much money as possible into these great teachers and staff members to make sure that they stay with us here in Lake Travis. So you can see the difference that was made last year through this conversation. So I want to remind you of a couple things with attendance. There is a set time that we must take attendance, and if your student is in the building at that time, then they're counted present. If they're not in the building at that time, they're absent. For our elementaries and middle schools, that time is 10 o'clock. So you need to be in the building at 10 o'clock to count. So if you are there at the beginning of school and you leave at 10:15, you are counted present. If you are not there at the beginning of school, you don't show up until 10:15, even though you're there from 10:15 through the remainder of the school day, in the eyes of the state of Texas, you were absent because you were not in the building at 10 o'clock. So 10 o'clock is the time, elementary and middle school. The time for our high school is 10:43. 10:43. It's a kind of a goofy time because that's about 10 minutes into the second period of the day is where that falls. So 10:43 at the high school. So we want to make sure folks are present. Also, just want to remind you about the doctor's note. If you are, let's just say you had a 9:45 doctor's appointment. So you kept your child home, you went to the doctor at 9:45, you brought them back to school at 10:30. Well, they were absent in elementary and middle school because they weren't there at 10. But if you bring the doctor's note, we can count them present. So If they're at school for part of a school day and you have a doctor's note, then they can be counted present. So these were just the things that we talked about last year, and we really just found out like what we know. We serve a really smart community. And if we all understand the rules of the game, then we can work within them to not only make sure our kids are healthy and we're not bringing sick kids to school, but make sure our kids are in school getting as much instruction as possible, but also honoring family time and knowing that there are some events that we are going to do as families, but how can we make that event work with school instead of them being, school maybe being at odds with the event. Let's have those work together. So we thank you for your work. On the funding side, we generated about $700,000 because of our increase in attendance last year. That money directly went to a raise for our staff. We just rolled it directly in. The school board rolled it directly in to the staff raise. Most school districts around did not get a raise this year. We were able to do 1%. We wish we could do more, but 1% cost about $750,000. So that 1% rolled directly in, and we reinvested it into our people. So really thankful for that. Just a couple of other quick reminders. Senate Bill 10, this is something that came up last year. Senate Bill 10 is the Senate bill that is now law that requires us to display the 10 commandments in our classrooms. Now, we were part of a court case last year. We were actually sued to prevent us from hanging the 10 commandments. And so we did not have them in our classrooms last year. But that court case was resolved over the summer. And so now we are required by law to have the 10 commandments in our classroom. And you will see those. They are present in all classrooms in Lake Travis ISD. We are in compliance with the law. So I know that many of you have been to meet the teacher and you may have seen those. We have a set place in the classroom where they are. So just want to update you that we are in compliance with that law here in Lake Travis ISD. And another conversation that we're having, it seems to be a really kind of a global and universal conversation, is that of technology usage. We want to make sure that we're finding the proper balance of technology usage and then kind of what we might call more of a classical experience of pencil and paper in the classroom. And so we are continuing those conversations and continuing to work through that. I think there's, like anything, you can go too far one way or another. To go exclusively with technology is too far. There needs to be a pencil and paper component. At the same time, to say we're going to get rid of all technology and we're only going to use pencil and paper, I'm not sure that prepares our children for the world that they're going to enter either. There should be a proper balance, and we're working to find that balance. We're still needing to move more into the direction of pencil and paper, so we're working more on that. One of the challenges that we have to budget for and be ready for is many of our instructional materials only exist within the screens, right? We bought electronic versions of textbooks and those types of things, so we don't have the paper versions, and there's a budgetary issue with that, right? If we're going to print those items or we're going to go buy those, we need to invest money to do that, to be able to get those materials. So we have to work through the budget process in that as well to make sure our teachers have the materials that they need to help them attack the things that they need to attack. So know that we're having those conversations. It's important to us. I know it's important to you. We're going to keep working on that as well as we move forward throughout the year. Now, as we get ready to wrap up here, let me just look through the questions real fast, see if there's any that we can hit in conversation. One of them here is the high school doing anything to honor Odin and his family? Yes, absolutely. I think you're going to see immediate things happen from helmet decals to t-shirts. You see all of those things. And then there's the more long-term things. Back to that conversation about so many wonderful people wanting to help. There have been so many great ideas. But Mr. Bush, our high school principal, Coach Carter, they'll work together as we continue to move forward on more long-term or permanent things to honor him. Right now, it's kind of the more immediate pieces, right? Those helmet stickers, the t-shirts, those type of things. The long-term things will take a little longer to formulate and really to put into practice. So, but absolutely, there'll be plenty of ways that we will honor him and remember him. let's see. There's a question on here about carrying bags from class to class. Some of these questions I would say need to be a question for your principal. There are some rules that are, big district rules, and then there are some practices that happen on a campus. So if you have a question maybe about how kids are transitioning between classes, please reach out directly to your principal. They are amazing people, and they'll be happy to visit with you and answer questions about those things as well. Another question here about West Cypress Hills community in Highland Lakes High School. Are we working to bring surface water to the area for the high school? If so, can we help West Cypress Hills and the surrounding community get on that as well? Water is a big deal around here. Today happens to be a great day to talk about it, since we had some water issues on campuses. We have some boil water notices now on multiple campuses today. But we know that water is a challenge. So we have an agreement with the West Cypress Hills utility district to help get us water to the high school, but we continue to work on surface water as well. And so we actually have a conversation or a meeting scheduled next week with that utility district in West Cypress and the HOA to talk about our progress on that. We continue to work to get the high school on surface water if at all possible. If there's a way for us to work that and bring the neighborhood with us, that would be great. I don't know for sure if that's going to work out, but certainly we want to be neighborly in all that we do as well. So in any way that we can, we will try to help out. Okay, I think that's the biggest bulk of the questions here tonight. Once again, thank you for joining us in conversation tonight. Certainly difficult conversation. At the same time, we stop as a community to remember a wonderful young man, but also just look at our community and be thankful that we live in such an amazing place that has really wrapped its arms around Odin's family and our Lake Travis High School family in every way. And we're just thankful for that. And I think in this moment of tragedy, once again, we look for those helpers. We look for the amazing people that remind us of how beautiful this world can be and how beautiful this world is. And we're just thankful that those wonderful people exist. And so let's attack the world with kindness. Let's be intentional about our words of affirmation and just really getting out there and saying nice things to each other, just as Odin would have done. So thank you for joining us tonight. We'll look forward to future conversations, maybe in our next grading period, but I hope that you continue to have a wonderful year, and we'll see you on campus very soon. Thank you.